Oh my goodness, how unreal does this cookie look? I've made a recipe inspired by crumble cookies. Into a mixing bowl, I'm adding 130 grams of light brown sugar, 50 grams of caster sugar, and 100 grams of softened unsalted butter. I'm mixing that all together before adding in 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. Next, I'm adding in some vanilla extract. I didn't measure this, but I would go with roughly 1 teaspoon, but you can add more if you'd like. You want to then mix this all together until it becomes something a little bit like this. I'm then adding in my dry ingredients, which is 150 grams of plain flour, 30 grams of cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. I then mixed that all together until it was all combined. The mix is quite thick, so you may have to go in with your spatula and mix it by hand like I did. The last part to the cookie recipe is adding in 200 grams of chocolate. I use milk chocolate and I chop this into big chunks. You can use chocolate chips if you'd prefer. I divided the mix up into 10 small balls, which I place onto a baking sheet and I press down with my hands. I then bake these in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes at 180 degrees Fahrenheit. While the cookies are cooking and cooling, it's time to make that silky ganache topping. To do this, I'm taking 200 grams of dark chocolate and melting that down with 100 grams of unsalted butter. Once it's melted, it should look a little glossy and something like this. And then I'm adding 200 grams of double cream and giving that a mix, and it should start to thicken up like this. And lastly, I'm adding 175 grams of icing sugar. I'm sieving this to avoid any lumps. Make sure you don't miss this step. And you just want to mix this until it's all combined and it's silky and smooth. Then want to place this in the fridge for about 5 to 10 minutes so it's a pipeable consistency. When your cookies start coming out the oven, you want to take a glass with a flat bottom, a little bit something like this. You want to place this on top of the cookie and kind of spin it around to create a nice flat top. Now my cookies are cooled and my ganache is ready. I'm taking the whisk 1M piping tip, and starting in the centre of the cookie, I'm just creating a rosette swirl all the way along the top. For the perfect rosette, make sure you are holding your piping bag horizontal, applying pressure at the start. As you come to the end of the swirl, you want to just ease off on the pressure. To finish them off, I sprinkled on some really bright sprinkles, and these are best placed in the fridge overnight and eaten at room temperature. Enjoy!